You were taught to be kind, to turn the other cheek, to be generous and forgiving, but where has that gotten you? Disrespected, ignored, used. In a world ruled by wolves, kindness is the scent of prey. Today, we're going to unravel why your kindness is not your strength. It's your curse. And how, by following Machiavelli's ruthless laws, you can command respect, preserve power, and most importantly, survive. Let me tell you something dangerous, something they don't teach you in school, or in Sunday sermons, or in motivational speeches, something they hope you never realize. Because the moment you do, you stop being controllable. You stop being useful. You stop being the soft, agreeable, self-sacrificing person the world prefers you to be. Here it is: kindness is not respected, it is exploited. When you're always kind, always forgiving, always open-hearted, you become a tool in the hands of those who know how to use people like you. Not everyone around you is guided by your same code. Some move through life as silent tacticians, studying what they can get from others, without guilt, without remorse, without mercy. And when they sense your kindness, here is a noble person. They think, here is someone I can bend. Here is someone who will say yes when others say no. It begins subtly. They borrow your time, your energy, your loyalty, without giving anything of value back. You offer help and they accept it like it's owed. You forgive and they repeat the offense. You give them a second chance and they use it as a backdoor to manipulate you further. This is the truth Machiavelli understood while others preached knave virtues. The world is not governed by justice. It is governed by interests. The nice man, the kind man, generous man, he is respected only when he is also feared. Ask yourself this: why do those who lie, cheat, and dominate often rise to the top, while those who do good struggle in silence? Why do the ruthless command attention, and the kind are told to be quiet and patient? Because most people don't understand the psychology of power. They think kindness is a currency of respect. But in reality, kindness without limits is a silent announcement of weakness. When you lead with kindness in every situation, when you respond to every insult with calm words, when you excuse disloyalty in the name of understanding, you are announcing something far worse than cruelty. You're announcing powerlessness, and powerlessness is blood in the water. A person who lacks the ability to say no, to punish, to walk away, is a person who will be surrounded by predators. This is not cruelty, this is reality. And Machiavelli's writings cut through all illusions. He knew that in politics and in life, the man who wishes to remain in power must know how to wear the mask of kindness, but never let it define him. Machiavelli said, "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." That statement has been misquoted, misunderstood, and attacked by the knave for centuries. But those who rule, those who command empires, understand exactly what it means. Love is conditional. It fades when circumstances change. But fear remains even when love disappears. Fear secures loyalty even in the absence of affection. This does not mean you should be cruel. No, cruelty is stupid when done recklessly, but you must learn to become strategic. Kindness must be rare, it must be measured, and it must never come from a place of neediness. When you're too kind, people begin to assume you lack options. You seem desperate to please, and desperate people are not respected. Observe the world around you. The boss who is overly generous becomes the one employees ignore. The friend who is always available becomes the one nobody values. The lover who gives endlessly becomes the one who is left behind. Why? Because we instinctively assign worth to those who protect their energy, those who are not too quick to give, those who are not too open to forgive. When you set no limits, people test you. When you never show consequence, people grow careless with your loyalty. And when you assume everyone thinks like you, you become a pawn in their game. To navigate this world without being broken by it, you must first accept that kindness is a weapon, and like all weapons, it must be used with intent, not impulse. You must decide when to show it and when to withhold it. You must create a contrast, a visible line between mercy and consequence. Only then will people think twice before crossing you. Because when kindness is your only language, the ruthless don't hear generosity, they hear weakness. They hear surrender. They see a person who can be used, discarded, and forgotten. You must become something different, something harder, something they cannot manipulate. People often live under a dangerous illusion that if their heart is pure, if their motives are good, if their actions come from sincerity, then the world will reward them. That goodness, in itself, will be enough to earn power, respect, loyalty, and safety. That belief has destroyed more lives than lies ever have, because the truth is colder. In every realm of power, whether in politics, relationships, business, social hierarchy, it is not your intentions that matter. It is how you are perceived. Machiavelli knew this. He studied rulers, tyrants, generals, and merchants. He watched the rise of kings and the fall of nations. And what he saw was simple men are not judged by the truth. They are judged by the image they create. Your intentions are invisible, but your presence is seen. The world doesn't care what you're trying to be. It only reacts to what you appear to be. You could be the most honest man in the room, the most loyal ally, the most well-meaning friend. But if you appear unsure, passive, soft, hesitant, you will be treated as if you are weak. Because perception is reality in the eyes of the masses. That is the law, and those who violate it, those who assume that sincerity is enough, are quietly removed from positions of influence. Think about how most people speak. They over-explain themselves. They justify every word. They seek validation for their good nature. But in doing so, they reveal desperation. They signal that they care too much about being understood. And that's a mistake. Because the more you try to prove your goodness, the more you reveal your lack of power. Powerful people do not explain themselves. They do not beg to be seen as good. They project certainty. They control their image with ruthless precision. They do not seek truth, they shape it. That is what Machiavelli meant when he said, "It is not necessary for a prince to have all the good qualities. It is necessary to appear to have them." Appearances are not deception. Appearances are strategy. You do not rise in power by being good. You rise by being seen as someone others do not want to cross. You must master the art of suggestion, the mastery of silence, the ability to imply strength even when you are uncertain inside. People cannot read your mind. They cannot see your soul. They only see your signals, your posture, your voice, your confidence, your emotional control. That's all they use to form their decisions about you. If you allow others to see insecurity, they will treat you as disposable. If you allow others to witness your desperation, they will pull away. But if you control how you are perceived, you gain the ability to bend the environment to your will. This is the power of illusion, not lies, but curated presence. Consider the rulers of history. Caesar, feared and loved, but above all, composed. Bismarck, diplomatic, yet cold when needed. Napoleon, generous to his soldiers, but merciless to his enemies. None of these men were admired for their intentions. They were respected because they understood the theater of leadership. They wore the mask the world needed to see, and behind that mask, they made real moves. You must do the same. If you want to be respected, you cannot afford to be transparent. You must protect your core. You must guard your mind. Do not show your doubts to those who compete with you. Do not reveal your wounds to those who would benefit from your downfall. Keep your internal world locked. Only let the world see the frame you want them to believe. Even in kindness, let them see control. In silence, let them feel calculation. When you speak, speak with economy, not emotion. People will project strength onto you when they are unsure what you're thinking. They will admire your mystery, even fear it. That is how you shift power, from inside their perception, not through your morality. The man who says, "I meant well," is always trying to fix a mistake he already made, but the man who never lets others see his hand never has to explain. The game is not about truth, it's about advantage. And advantage belongs to those who craft their identity with intent, not those who wait to be appreciated for who they really are. In the end, people follow what they respect, and respect does not come from kindness, it comes from command, from presence, from the image of someone who cannot be moved easily, cannot be figured out too quickly, and cannot be manipulated through flattery or guilt. That image, once forged, is worth more than any virtue you keep hidden inside. People misunderstand cruelty. They recoil from the word, they flinch at the sound of it, because they've been trained to think it is the opposite of goodness. But Machiavelli saw further. He saw that cruelty in the hands of the wise is not barbarism. It is discipline. It is structured. It is controlled. And above all, it is a tool. When used selectively and with precision, cruelty becomes something far more valuable than blind compassion ever could, a source of respect. You've been taught that compassion is a virtue, that if you always forgive, always listen, always give others another chance, you are noble, that the more you sacrifice for others, the better you are. But in the real world, the world where men compete for power, where loyalty shifts with pressure, and where betrayal is just one opportunity away, unconditional compassion is not seen as virtue, it's seen as a vulnerability. Machiavelli warned about this mistake. He observed that those who show mercy to everyone quickly lose their grip on power. Because when you offer kindness to those who deserve consequence, you weaken the foundation of your rule. You confuse your allies, and you empower your enemies. People begin to think, if there is no punishment, there is no risk. And when there is no risk, there is no fear. Without fear, there is no respect. Cruelty well used, as Machiavelli called it, is rare, swift. It is not constant, not reckless, not born from rage, but from calculation. When someone crosses a line, they must feel it, not emotionally, strategically. The goal is not to destroy everyone. The goal is to make an example of one so others never forget the consequence. This is not evil. This is the order, and order cannot survive without boundary. Now consider the opposite: the man who forgives every offense, who never raises his voice, who tolerates betrayal in the name of peace. What happens to him? He becomes invisible, he loses his influence, and eventually, he is devoured by the very people he tried to protect. Passion becomes a license for others to test him, step on him, lie to him, and walk away clean. Because they know, they always know, he won't do anything about it. This is how respect dies, not with a dramatic betrayal, but with a series of quiet, unpunished violations, one after another. First, they ignore your request. Then they speak over you. Then they break a promise. Then they embarrass you. And because you did nothing, because you let it slide in the name of kindness, they no longer fear you. They no longer care what you think. You are no longer a threat, and when you are not a threat, you are replaceable. You must reverse this dynamic. You must become someone who shows restraint, yes, but who is also capable of measured retaliation. This is what commands true respect. People respect those who don't lash out emotionally, but who can strike when necessary, and who do so in a way that echoes. You do not need to respond to every offense. You must respond to the right ones, and your response must set a tone. Machiavelli understood that fear is a more reliable bond than love. Not because fear is cruel, because fear is clear. People do not misinterpret fear. They do not forget it. They organize their behavior around it. When people know you have a line, and that line is sharp, they tread carefully. They weigh their words. They respect your time. They think twice before crossing you. That respect is not rooted in affection. It's rooted in memory. They remember what you did the last time someone thought you were soft. Compassion is not bad. But compassion, like all tools, must be applied with precision. You give it where it strengthens your influence. You deny it where it would weaken your image. You reward loyalty? Yes, but you also punish disloyalty. Mercy without cost invites chaos, and chaos destroys power. When people see that your forgiveness has no boundary, they begin to treat your authority as optional. You must carry both weapons, the open hand and the closed fist. You do not show both at once. You reveal one based on what the situation demands. And when cruelty is required, you must use it without hesitation, without apology. Because hesitation signals doubt, and apology signals regret. But cruelty well used, quiet, precise, rare, is remembered far longer than any speech, any compromise, or any second chance ever will be. People trust what they fear more than what they love. And when your presence commands respect, not because you demand it, but because your history proves it, then you have graduated from simply being liked to being unshakable. Emotion is a currency, but like all currencies, it loses its value when you flood the market. You've been conditioned to believe that openness is strength, that expressing every feeling is healthy, that sharing what's inside will bring you closer to others. But in the arena of power, nothing makes you more predictable and more easily broken than emotional transparency. The man who cannot control his emotions will never control his fate. Machiavelli didn't speak about feelings the way modern thinkers do. He spoke about results. He observed the rise and fall of rulers not by what they felt, but by what they could conceal. The prince who wept in public was admired by poets, but quickly forgotten by history. The ruler who smiled while sharpening his blade endured, because to survive in a world shaped by ambition, competition, betrayal, and appearance, you must know when to feel and when to withhold. The people who dominate others are not cold machines. They feel like everyone else. But what separates them is their ability to delay expression. They do not react. They do not panic. They study. They absorb. They wait. Because emotion that is unguarded is a roadmap. It reveals your weaknesses. It shows others where to press, where to wound, where to trap you. You cry too quickly. They see what breaks you. You get angry too easily. They learn how to provoke you. You seek constant reassurance, and they know exactly how to control you. Every time you show emotion impulsively, you give a piece of your power away. And in the wrong hands, that piece becomes a weapon. Look at how people manipulate emotions. They bait them. They blame them. They praise them just enough to keep them loyal. Then they withdraw that praise to create panic. It's a game, and the emotionally impulsive never win. Because while they are reacting, the strategist is calculating. There's a reason powerful people are drawn to silence. There's a reason men who lead empires speak slowly, if at all. It is not because they lack emotion. It's because they control the timing of its release. You do not show your hand in the first round. You do not reveal your vulnerabilities to those who haven't earned your trust. You do not let others know what keeps you up at night. That is not honesty. It's surrender. This does not mean becoming numb. It means becoming disciplined. When you're insulted, you do not lash out, you take note. When you're betrayed, you do not weep. You retreat and reorganize. When you're doubted, you do not explain yourself, you improve in silence. Every emotional outburst is a distraction. Every unnecessary explanation is a confession. The moment you feel the urge to react, to shout, to defend, you must remember this is how amateurs fall. Machiavelli wrote about fortune as a wild river, violent, unpredictable, and indifferent. But he also wrote that the man who builds barriers, who anticipates the flood, who prepares while others are relaxed, survives the storm. Emotion is that river, and you must build the dam, not to block all feelings, but to direct it with purpose, to know when to reveal fire, and when to sit in the cold and wait. You must master the art of emotional distance. Not because you are heartless, but because you are not stupid. Because you know that people pretend to care just long enough to learn your habits. Because you know that alliances shift when convenience enters the room. Because you know that the smile in public can mask a knife in private. And so, you move with calculation. You trust slowly. You speak with purpose. You reveal only what is useful. There is enormous power in emotional restraint. When others lose their temper, you remain composed. When they beg for approval, you remain distant. When they overshare, you observe. This creates an asymmetry, one where they reveal everything and you reveal nothing. And that gap becomes your leverage. It makes you harder to understand, harder to manipulate, harder to destroy. Because no one can fight what they cannot predict. In a world where attention is currency and drama is exploited, emotional control becomes your shield. You will be provoked. You will be tested. People will insult you, challenge you, gossip about you, just to see if you will break form. And when you don't, when you remain calm while others unravel, they begin to see you differently, not as a victim, not as someone emotional, but as someone dangerous. The emotionally controlled man walks into the room and shifts the energy, not with volume, presence. He doesn't rush to defend himself. He doesn't explain his silence. He doesn't respond to every pull for attention. Because he knows the truth. Every reaction is a trade, and he doesn't give away power for free. He withholds it, stores it, and unleashes it only when it creates maximum effect. You have been taught that to survive in this world, you must be kind. To be respected, you must be gentle. That to lead, you must be loved. But Machiavelli knew what most men refuse to accept. Power is not earned through goodness. It is taken through clarity, fear, and control. Kindness, if unguarded, invites exploitation. Good intentions, if worn on your sleeve, invite manipulation. Compassion, if unconditional, invites rebellion. And emotion, if uncontrolled, invites collapse. To walk through life with an open heart, a loose tongue, and a need to be understood is to invite wolves to your doorstep. They will wear smiles, they will say the right things, and then they will devour you, piece by piece, while you're still asking why. But there is another way. The way of the unseen blade, the cold silence, the selective cruelty, the powerful mask, the refusal to beg, to defend, to react, the ability to let others underestimate you until it's too late. Machiavelli's laws are not warm, they are not soft, but they are real. And for those who dare to apply them, not just rid them, they transform weakness into command, uncertainty into dominance, and kindness into something far more powerful. Strategy. Let the world chase love. You will chase leverage. Let others be liked. You will be respected. Let them speak. You will watch. And when the moment comes, you will strike. That is how you survive. That is how you win. Not by being kind, but by being untouchable.